get a team of people you don't work with regularly, some of whom you've never even met before, to create a look that you've only just designed and maybe only just come up with on a whole bunch of different models, all with different hair in a really tight time frame so that it looks exactly like what the creative director and designer signed off on at the test. And how do you do all of that in a way that leaves you, your team, and your sponsors, as well as the client, feeling awesome about the experience? Well, in this session, we're going to look at the old way of working as a hair director, leading a team, and then I'll give you my framework for a new way of working. So you can create a calm and fruitful backstage experience, no matter how stressful the situation. So here's the traditional way that running a team backstage. It's one that I've experienced countless times. So the team arrives at call time. They will file in backstage, set up their gear, find a little workstation. Then the hair director's first assistant comes in and kind of shouts to everyone across the room, "Just a mason and a blow dryer and some Carmens," whatever a Carmen is. I thought that was a car, but anyway, turns out it's hot rollers. Models start filing in, getting food, grabbing seats, dropping their bags and coats around. Then at some point the hair director arrives, they grab a model. First assistant shouts, "Everyone come and watch the demo." I don't know why I've got that first assistant voice. Anyway, hair director then does the look from start to finish. Meanwhile, second and third assistant go and put out pictures of the look around on the mirrors and some products and pins and stuff on the workstations. The hair director completes the look from start to finish, grabs another model, starts working, and everyone scurries away to grab a model and start working. You do the same, finish a model, you take them up to the hair director when you think it's finished. They point out all the things that you got wrong and tell you to go back and fix it, or they say, "No, it's good, that's done." So you either go away and fix what you've done wrong, or you go and find another model if you got it right and try and get it right again. At some point, some people come in and start shouting about taking models for the rehearsal. The hair director looks up for the first time in 2.5 hours after they've been head down, bum up doing work. They see that all the hair has a slightly different interpretation based on what the hairdresser saw or thought they saw during the demo. They start panicking. They start shouting that it's all wrong. They go into a flap. They tell the media, "No interviews." I don't know why I'm French all of a sudden. Try to do all the hair themselves and fix it. The show runs late. And everyone leaves feeling as if they weren't quite good enough, or as if they kind of failed in some way. But the hair looks great, and the hair director gets amazing accolades for this amazing hair that's just walking down the runway. There is an upside to this way of doing things, and that is that everyone in the team's always on edge. They're on their toes, they're hyper-vigilant, they're trying their hardest not to make any mistakes, and the pressure of that really can create diamonds. It can create magic moments, and it can push you to do better than you've ever done. But that pressure can be kind of crushing. And, you might end up feeling sad and sitting in your hotel room in the bath at 2 o'clock in the morning crying. So what's a new way of approaching the hair director's role, in particular on the day of the show, in the mode of team leader? So let's think about this as a completely separate role or responsibility than the creative, right? The creative is the creative, the team leadership is a different part. You've got to ask yourself this question: as a team leader, how can you get the most out of your team for the best creative outcome and leave them feeling like they learned something, even if it was that they learned that they were already really good, that they grew in some way from a skill, technique, or a point of view, and that they leave feeling good about themselves and wanting to come back and do it again and work with you again. So there's a simple framework, right? Setup, demo, oversight, first looks, debrief, 5 steps. So let's talk about the setup. This is what you do first. It's like setting up the rules of engagement, or how we as a team are going to play together. How I like to do it is I like to start with a tight huddle, call anyone in, tell them to come and stand a little bit closer, and then I ask, how many of you guys have worked with me on a show before? And then I ask, how many of you have never worked with me on a show before? And then I'll say, so before we talk about the hair, I just want to take a minute to talk to you guys about how I like to work as a hair director, especially for those of you that have never worked with me before, just so that you know how it's all going to roll. As the hair director, I'm here to help you. You guys are here to do the hair, and I'm here to kind of be the pilot or the navigator, if you like. Have that kind of big 30,000 foot overview of the overall vision for the team and the look. So what I mean by that, how that might look or how that might work could be, as an example, like we're all different shapes and sizes, right? And that means that your ponytail might sit in a slightly different spot to my ponytail just because of our height. So, or with product, right? Your idea of shitloads of mousse might be quite different from her idea of shitloads of mousse. So if I come around and I say something like, maybe put a bit more product here, or shift the parting from here to here, or the angle of the parting, or move it this way a little bit, it's not because you've done it wrong. It's just because it's my job to help keep all the looks consistent. And for me, in a dream run, when this way of working works really well, it's like the hair team is kind of like an octopus backstage, right? It's like lots of different arms, one brain, all going in the same direction with the same vision together, which is getting all the hair done so that all the models are ready on time. They've had a nice experience with the team. They feel loved and looked after and beautiful because, you want them to be happy to see you. And most importantly, we never ever hold the show up. So in a minute, I'll grab a model and show you the hair look and how to do it. We'll talk a bit about the why behind the signed off look, and then you lot will go and do the hair, and I'll float around from team to team and table to table and help. So that's kind of how I phrase the setup, right? I'll tell that to the team. Then I'll ask, before we crack into the hair, what questions do you have? And then I'll wait for some questions. Right, next up is the demo, and you want to teach this, you want to approach this like a teaching moment. You never assume that the team knows like all the products and tools and techniques as well as you do, who's using them all the time. You want to make sure that you point out like the seemingly obvious, especially the little details, like how to apply the product or where to hold their hands to ensure the ponytail's in the right spot. I like to think of the demo like this. Like how I teach the demo, if you like. If I had an apprentice and I wanted to send them off to create this look completely unsupervised in a closed room and then just bring it back to me looking exactly like I did it, what are the steps I would tell them? How would I simply communicate that to them so that they got it right? How would I make sure what, why, and how to approach and execute the look in the simplest way possible? Then what you'll do is you'll show them the images, you'll tell them a little story about the character in the brief so they have some context because they weren't at the hair test. They don't know the backstory unless you actually tell them. And this moment is actually quite a good chance for you to practice out loud some of the sound bites that you'll use when you're doing your media interviews later in the show. You might also want to give a couple of the team a chance to get their hands in the hair, to apply some product or tie off the ponytail, or maybe braid out one of the braids, or hand pins, or just give a few of them the chance to get their hands on in the demo, because that kind of helps break the ice. It helps to break the tension, ease some of that pressure, because remember, everyone's on edge. They want to impress you. They it's a new environment. And once you've done the demo, answer any final questions and you tell them, righto, off you go, grab a model, get cracking. You might also want to let them know that if it's okay if they work in pairs, and that some people will be more comfortable with this look, and it's okay if you're not, because passing pins, holding hair is just as useful as brushing and braiding and blow drying, etc. Then as the next couple of hours go by, I like to just float around and make sure that we're running on schedule. I'll float from table to table, station to station, helping and guiding where needed, checking with the producers to make sure the models are there. And this part can feel a bit like the hands-on part of the seminar. It's a great opportunity for you to practice coaching and to grow as a leader. I try to practice good coaching methods by guiding the hair team to the best outcome, so they have this greater sense of ownership of the finished look. And at the end of the day, it's your name on the show, right? So you should feel as if you can push them to stretch themselves to execute at the highest level. It's okay to tell them they can do it better, even if it's a really simple look, because sometimes the simplest looks executed at the highest level are the most magical. I remember one of these looks at Saint Laurent, this one Saint Laurent show we did in Paris. It was this simple chignon, but it was executed so beautifully and consistently across all the models. I'll never forget how incredible it was to see them all in the lineup before they walked, and in the pictures online afterwards. So satisfying. While you're floating around, you'll start to get a sense for the handful of people that really shine for that particular look. These are the ones that you want to tap on the shoulder for the lineup look, or the lineup work, I should say. Once the models have finished hair and makeup, then they'll go to rehearsal. They'll have a little walkthrough in their shoes, and you get to watch that, and so you can kind of notice what the hair's doing. Then they'll go off and get dressed into their first looks. You'll need a small hand-picked team to float around backstage, keeping an eye on the hair as the models change and get ready for the show, because, you know, clothes on and off, what that does to the hair. Now, you may also have a few runners. These are the girls or models that arrive late and they've literally run from another show that's just walked. They'll need hair and makeup, and it'll have to be done super quick. Hopefully, they don't have a greasy, crimped look that's going to make it too challenging for you. Obviously, if they have, you might need to go and wash their hair. It's a good idea to work with makeup at the same time so that you can get them ready faster. So make sure you've got a handful of your strongest team members back there that can take care of the runners. And then the models walk. That's the magic moment. That's when all the tension and the pressure dissipates and all the joy and satisfaction bubbles up. It's when you get to see your creative. And then the last part of the team leadership is to do a debrief, right? If possible, I like to ask the team to wait until the show's walked and that we're all finished before they leave. Of course, they can go and watch, but I want them to stay until everyone's gone before they leave. There's two reasons for this. If any of the models need help to take their hair out, to take out extensions or gather up hair pieces, it's better if the team can help them than they do it themselves. And the second thing is the debrief. A quick debrief is singularly one of the best learning tools I've ever come across. I try to practice it personally, everything I do. We'll go deeper on the debrief in the segment on presenting and stage work. So I'm just going to give you a little snapshot of how I use it to wrap up a fashion show here. First of all, bring everyone into a huddle. I like to thank them and congratulate them for the hair they did, tell them it was really beautiful. And then I ask them to think of one thing that they did or learned that went really well. And I ask them to say it out loud. And then I'll ask them if they got a do-over, like if they got to replay this experience, what's one thing they'd change or do differently next time to get a better outcome? Because you can do one thing, right? And with that, we do a nice cheesy hands in the middle to wrap the show up. So in this lesson, we focused on leading a team, right? We looked at the traditional way of hair directing, and then I shared my 5-step framework to a more inclusive and empowering experience. The next lesson is all about incorporating the third component of your role as the hair director, and that is the media spokesperson. I'll share my tips and tricks for maximizing the media opportunity, knowing what to say, how to say it, and I'll tell you about this one time that I completely froze on camera backstage at New York Fashion Week at Alexander Wang. It wasn't good. See you in there.